Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Azure podcast. My name is Evan Baslick. I'm here with my fellow hosts, Cynthia, Kale, Russell, Sajit. We got actually a really full house today because we have some special guests who want to talk about some things that they built on top of Purview, so basically a Purview solution accelerator. And so we'll get to them and that in a few minutes, but today is October 5th, and this is episode number 441. I totally screwed that intro up. Y'all, like, that was horrible. I didn't miss in the number. Okay. We'll just keep going. So before we get to our guests, we're cracking up our guests now. I'm watching it on screen for those of you that are not on video. Before we get to our guests, let's hit some news. Who wants to start first?
I can go if you like. So there was a couple of new announcements on Azure ML. So some GA features that have come out. Just some small updates really. So one is about being able to configure email notifications really easily through the ML tool, so you can generate notifications on updates and stuff. The other one was some public preview updates that have come out. So there's three new things come up there, and it's about how you can configure the compute instance with managed identity. So bringing that into the ML side of things as well, and various other little changes in there. I think the main thing I noticed when I was going through the Azure updates this time round was a number of retirements of things. So notices of things that are being removed. I see Cal spotted one there as well, which is the Azure Basic Load Balancer, which is due to be retired. But they've all got fairly long dates on them, so that one's 2025, I think, September. And there's another option, which is to upgrade to standard load balancers for that one. But some of the other things I noticed was the DevOps starter, and instead they recommend you use the developer CLI Quick Start instead. Static web app support for Node 12, which ends in 2022. Azure Batch Jobs Pool and Lifetime Stats API is being discontinued as of April 23, and Azure Batch Low Priority VMs support for those September 2025. And I'm guessing this is a timing thing because we've got Ignite coming up next week, and I guess it's kind of clearing away some of the stuff that's less used or less supported, and making way for all the awesome features that are going to be announced then.
Also, I think the batch job pull lifetime stats API is too long of a name, so that's probably why.
Okay, who wants to go next?
I have one around energy that I think I just learned about it today, that Microsoft and INT are deploying IVAAP for OSDU. I know there's a lot of acronyms, and OSDU is Open Group Open Subsurface Data Universe for you. But the main idea is that we're really consolidating like the data platform of how people are monitoring how oil and gas is using energy. And with this partnership, we'll also have a lot of different data visualization, APIs, SDKs that you can easily use as a solution for different companies that are especially focused around energy consumption to really understand how they're being consumed, where they're being consumed, and obviously find ways that you can make it more efficient.
Yeah, thank you for finding those, because that's a lot of acronyms in one name. The one that I did want to throw out there, and this still blows my mind every time I see something like this. So we just announced a public preview for Azure SQL Database, 450 gigs of memory, 128 cores. And again, this is SQL Database. I've been doing this long enough that I remember, old Superdome physical servers in the on-premises world, which were like a whole 64 cores, right? And those are like the biggest, baddest things we ever saw in the SQL Server world. And now this is, it's just a SQL Database thing. We just casually announce it, right? It's just sort of amazing the scale that you can get, right? Just click a button, deploy. Now you'll be running, high cost per minute, but that's way better than the 6 or 12 months it used to take to get these things in the house. So I just thought that was kind of cool. Any other news? Did we miss anything else? Russell, Kale, Cynthia?
I think we're good.
Okay, cool. Well, so let's get over to our special guest. So again, we're going to be talking about Databricks Solution Accelerator for Azure Purview. Will, Travis, Mark, can you guys introduce yourselves and tell us who you are, and then what the heck a solution accelerator is? So we'll start with that piece.
Well, let me quickly introduce myself, and then maybe we'll go to Travis and then to Mark. So that way, Mark, you can launch us off into that. So real quick, Will Johnson. I'm currently one of the global black belts supporting cloud analytics at Microsoft. I really focus on Databricks, on Purview, machine learning, and I've been doing this for a little while now, 4.5 years at Microsoft. And I really got an awesome opportunity to work with Mark and Travis on this particular solution accelerator through a chance meeting a while back. So Travis, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Travis Hilbert. I work on the early access engineering team along with Mark. I just celebrated, well, not just, it was in July, but my 10 years at Microsoft. So that's a cool milestone. But yeah, early access engineering, and I'll let Mark take over.
Hi, Mark Taylor, also early access engineering. And I work as sort of a technical PM, but also as a dev. So I wear some different hats in that role. But our team, to answer your question, so our team early access engineering works with customers, and we're kind of a unique engineering team in that we're completely customer facing, and we work a lot with the sales team and with other organizations within Microsoft that are customer facing. And the idea is that we figure out um, areas where customers might be having issues with our products. Maybe it's because they're really complex and we need to give them some kind of example of how these things would be implemented in the real world, or maybe it's like a gap that a product has. So we work to try and fill those gaps through solution accelerators, which are open source code that we produce. And we work a lot with the engineering teams. One of the things that Jacqueline Ajay has done, who leads our group, is kind of put together a unique development model. So instead of us just developing stuff as a team, we actually set up these kind of cross-org development teams. With like Will isn't part of the early access engineering group, as he said, he's a GBB. A lot of our leads on their development projects actually come from other places within Microsoft, and we kind of bring all of that together into what we call a development pod. Um, so in this case, I was working on governance, and so Purview, and we noticed that there was well, we didn't notice, the engineering team came to us and customers came to us, and there was a lot of information about folks needing to be able to get Lineage out of Azure Databricks. And so that's where this particular solution accelerator came from. And we immediately, I went to Will because he's kind of famous in the Purview area as the creator of something called PyApache Atlas, which maybe another session, but he's awesome. So I went to try and work with Will, and we got some other folks involved, a guy named Rodrigo Monteiro, and you can see them all on the Purview ADB Lineage Solution Accelerator GitHub page if you go there. But I think we counted, and there's something like 7 different organizations represented by the folks who were working on this. So it's really been a cross-organizational thing, and the AE team kind of lends, full-time developers and other resources to it, and does some funding activities. But really, it's a cross-org endeavor. And I could pass over, Will. Do you want to talk about how we got started with the hackathon and some of the stuff you led around that?
Yeah,
if that's interesting.
If you guys don't mind, yeah. So as you guys know, right, Microsoft hosts like the world's largest hackathon every single year, and the best part is that we get like 3 days to work on something that is hopefully useful, hopefully interesting to ourselves, and hopefully beneficial to the company and our customers. And we were like, yeah, you know what, we can do something like this. We already worked on, Mark mentioned PyApache Atlas, and there was another solution accelerator that Mark and Travis and Rodrigo had done, and we're like, yeah, we can just keep going at this point, and we'll use the hackathon as an excuse for us to kind of hang out and knock this out. We discovered that there was this package called Open Lineage, which is an open source project that has this integration into Spark already, and like it pretty much did the majority of what we wanted already. The only thing it didn't do was talk to Purview. And so we were like, okay, can we one, during the hack, get this installed into Databricks, and then 2, can we build something that can take what Open Lineage emits, its standard specification, and then shove it into Purview somehow. So I remember Mark and Travis were a little bit concerned about like, okay, we only got 3 days, right? And these solution accelerators take like months of work. And I remember Mark was telling me that he was surprised because over the weekend, I at least got Open Lineage installed and emitting Lineage and talking to an Azure function. It was that easy for us to get it started. And then the hard part came with like translating it. And actually, that's where all like the real work. But you know, we got it done in a few days. It was like really, really long days. And then we had to do like a demo video and stuff like that. But it worked out. I think we were all up until like, you know, 1 a.m. each person's time zone. But it was a lot of fun on actually building this solution. And we were very, very fortunate that we had the benefit of like Open Lineage. We could stand on their shoulders to get it done with.
And Will's making the Open Lineage part sound easy, but as we went on, there's a ton of contributions into Open Lineage that Will actually led. So we've done a bunch of contributions into that OSS project as well to get this off the ground and to provide the missing pieces that we needed. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So let's sort of frame this in the sort of the bigger context. So Purview is about sort of understanding the data, you know, the provenance of your data, right? How does that end up interacting with Databricks? Like, why do I? And again, this is sort of a Purview question, sort of the you know the solution accelerator question. But let's frame it a little bit. Why do I care? Like, why do I care about knowing where my data came from in Databricks? Like,
so the reason why you care is because Spark and Databricks in general are a massive platform for ETL, for extract, transform, and load. It is like probably the most popular platform that is out there. Cross cloud, GCP, AWS, and Azure are all using it, and so as a result, we have a lot of developers doing stuff there. And currently, you know, you can write in many different languages. You can write in SQL, Python, Scala, R even. And as a result, there's a lot of complexity that can go into a single Spark or Databricks job. And so I care about that lineage and that provenance because there's important business logic in there. There's tables that I'm going to consume from, or I'm going to modify upstream of it, that if I am, you know, very laissez-faire about keeping track of this, I'm eventually going to shoot myself in the foot, and I'm going to make a change to a table, and it's going to affect some random job that turns out to be mission critical that some data scientist was messing around with and never told anybody about. But it's powering some major thing on the e-commerce platform. So without it, I'm kind of running blind to some degree. And in this case, with respect to Purview, it was a feature that we did not have on the product, right? And it's still is a bit of a gap where Purview doesn't natively talk to Databricks, and so we needed something to be able to extract that lineage so that we could at least show it to our customers, so that we could at least demonstrate that we know about this and we care about it, and we know that it's important to you as well.
And we have been working closely with the Purview team, so we're kind of aligned with their roadmap, and there's a plan for taking a lot of these learnings and potentially some of the solution and building it in as things progress forward. So we're trying to align on all of those kind of future activities as well.
So what is it? I mean, it sounds like you guys had to do a bunch of setup to get this to work. If I wanted to use this tomorrow, how hard do I have? Do I have to work 3 really long days to set this up?
Travis did all that.
All
right?
yours,
he
Travis.
Did all that, right?
Yeah. So a good chunk of my time was spent on how to actually deploy this to like a customer environment. And so we have 2 different deployment methods. We have like a full demo deployment, which will deploy everything from ground zero all the way up to, you know, Purview, and then run pipelines to show lineage. And getting that together probably takes an hour, maybe, depending on how fast, you know, Azure's feeling today. And then you have to go in and put in some, you know, permissions and things like that. But you can have a full end-to-end demo running in an hour. And then we also do have a connector-only deployment. So if you already have like a Purview and like a Databricks already kind of set up in your environment, and you just want to add this connector into it, you can go ahead and run the connector only deployment. It deploys the functions and everything, and you can basically connect up everything that way. And everything is done through a bash script and an ARM template that we deploy through the Cloud Shell, so that nobody needs to try to install any sort of dependencies locally or anything like that. Everything is done in the Azure portal. You just clone the repo over, you know, CD into the folder you need, and then you just kind of run it. So it's pretty straightforward, and you don't, since you're not doing it locally, you're not running into any like weird dependencies or anything like that.
Probably the most complex part on the connector only deployment is setting up all the open lineage pieces, I would think.
Yes.
So there are some manual steps there, but on the demo deployment, that's all done for you. So
yeah, the demo deployment is very straightforward.
Okay.
Wells laughing. Is it because it's not that straightforward?
I laugh a lot, Cynthia. You're going to
he's
see
very
that here.
happy.
I'm very, very happy. But
this is
but
the
I
thing
think I don't know. It's pretty straightforward. I would say that yes, there are some nuances we have seen on like GitHub issues where it's like, okay, how do I do this? Well, okay, it's in the doc, right? It's in there. We've learned a lot about maintaining a popular open source repository that we see a lot of human nature coming out with following instructions. And so it's there, and we've improved. We have improved. There's been a lot of great feedback from the community using it to make it easier. And so that's why I'm chuckling silently over here.
Look, I have deployed this thing, no joke, like 1,000 times, because we'd run it and then, you know, go back in and make a change, or, you know, it's so I can deploy this thing in my sleep pretty much, because I have ran the code so many times. But yeah, you know, you just follow the instructions and you're good to go.
Okay, so straightforward is relative or subjective to how well you follow instructions.
There, boom.
There it
yes.
is.
Perfect.
Yes.
But Travis got one question for you. You mentioned ARM templates. Could you talk? Can you tell us about the background why you chose ARM template over Bicep? And then other question for like the entire team: if this solution accelerator, do you see customers from specific industries that's like flocking towards it, or is it more of a generic solution that everyone can leverage?
So I'll cover why we chose ARM template over Bicep. I just now started learning Bicep, so that's why I chose ARM template over Bicep. I was more familiar with ARM template, and we got so far in it that going back to rewrite it all in Bicep was not
He's honest.
on the
It's an
roadmap.
honest answer.
But I
Does
do
your life
really
feel a lot better now?
I do really like Bicep. I've been learning it and getting it, and I do very much like Bicep, so I will be transitioning into Bicep. But yeah, at the time it was just that's what we wrote in.
But and I don't know if this is still true, but at least when we were evaluating, we like to use the push button deployments in GitHub.
Yeah.
And so I don't think those, at least at the time we were looking, didn't seem to be supported by Bicep. So just for our overall accelerators, this doesn't have a push button deployment because it's got a bunch of script that we have to run. It's too complex. But for overall, our team was mostly doing ARM templates for that reason, I think.
We'll
And
bring
then
it
with
back in
respect
like
to-
6 months, and you'll be like, I don't know why we wrote all that ARM code, man. This was so
Look,
easy."
like I said, I've looked into Bicep, and we have another solution accelerator that's using a bunch of Bicep, and I just did a crash course on it, and I was like, man, Bicep is really cool. And
Yeah.
So now, yeah, sooner or later, if you know, if somebody wants to give me some funding, I can go back and rewrite all the ARM into Bicep.
Well, with respect quickly to Cynthia's other question around industry, so far it's been broad, right? It's no one industry is focused on this, but every industry talks about Databricks, right? So for at least with there's like maybe there's some there might be some inherent bias, but we've heard from manufacturing, from retail, from health and life sciences, for the customers who come to us directly or through other connections through Microsoft. So it's cross industry, and I think that's what makes it great, and it really actually speaks probably more to the value of Purview, how it is cross industry. Everyone needs governance, and also to Databricks, because everyone loves Databricks and everyone loves, you know, the scale at which Databricks can work for you as well. So I think we benefit from that because it's two solutions that everybody either likes or everybody needs, and we get to stand on top of that.
Yeah,
People need
great.
to know where their data is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I think y'all addressed it, but I want to make sure that we sort of clarify. So sounds like setting it up is reasonable if we follow the instructions, is what we landed on. You know, and you know, but let's say I run into trouble, you know, or I run into something that I think is a bug. It sounded like y'all are very active on GitHub and you're responsive, and so basically it sounds like that's the route for people to reach out if they have questions. But also, what if they want to contribute something?
Yes, for the love of goodness, please. We would love
Okay.
that, right? Honestly, like that's where we have two awesome communities that we actually can support, right? One is our community, right, with the Solution Accelerator, where if you want to, you know, there's a couple things that I think we could stand to improve. There's this idea of if you have a custom data source, right? If you are working with like a, I don't know, Oracle SQL database, Mark actually designed a solution so that it can just be configured, right? You don't have to make any code changes. Send us that configuration. We'll host it in our little little gallery that we have that will help other customers and other users actually like, oh, I can just grab this configuration, stick it into my app settings, and then now it works. I can now, you know, take Oracle and translate it to Oracle assets in Purview. Awesome. And then secondly, though, we also have the Open Lineage community. And so even there, right, having more people aware of that community and contributing over there to submit PRs on like, hey, this is some weird behaviors happening in Databricks Delta. We can fix it in Open Lineage, and then we inherit that, right? And it's just so awesome. And you know, if we're working on some more data sources with respect to Azure, like Cosmos and Custo, those are already in Open Lineage at this point. And so we want to do more, right? We want to bring in event hubs, right? We want to bring in Snowflake. There's Snowflake Spark, and we want to be able to submit those to Open Lineage. So we two great communities. I think we would love it. And for those who are interested in Open Lineage, you know, reach out to them, reach out to me. I would love to help get people excited about that because it's such a great community. And again, the whole of all data lineage providers, not just Purview, can benefit from it because a lot of other people are starting to use Open Lineage as well.
Yeah, and if you file issues, feel free to file bug fixes too, and put in pull requests. It's all good. We welcome all of that.
So I know you all were talking and referring to this as a solution accelerator, and within Microsoft, there's a number of different offerings that are meant to help accelerate the adoption of many different solutions. Does this solution accelerator tie into things like our cloud adoption framework or landing zone, or are there plans to kind of integrate that in the future?
This is a little bit different pattern than we usually use for Solution Accelerator. We almost didn't call it that, but it's what our team produces, so we put it under that moniker. But I think this is more like a production connector that we've built. So it's not so much to, a lot of the solution accelerators we do are designed to help accelerate like MVP projects with customers or POCs and really get things, you know, off the ground and started. This is more of a production connector that we built here, which is designed to help, you know, help also with input into the product teams around the same functionality.
I would add to it though, like so while I think we did during the design of this consider some of those things with respect to like the well-architected framework, because we want to be sure that this can scale out, right? This can scale to customers, and honestly, I've been, you know, Mark has many more years of experience at Microsoft than I do, right? But over my nearly 5 years here, I feel like this has been one of the most useful solutions that I've seen produced by a team. Not to toot our own horn very much, but the idea here is that this is a great example of how to write good performant code on an Azure function, and with design decisions on how to scale out like horizontally, right? As Azure functions can, right? While while we don't necessarily document all of those choices, those sorts of ideas and the patterns that Microsoft espouses, we try to apply into this so that it would work well. And I think, again, it's a great example. We just don't explicitly say that it's a good example, except for right now, what we're doing here. Yes.
It is fairly complex, so there is that too. There's a lot to look at and read through on the code side for some of these design decisions to become clear.
There's a couple lines of code.
Yeah.
I think I want to sort of make sure from a customer perspective that people know, when and where they should use this. It sounds like, this is open source, right? So they have to be aware that if they're going to adopt it, it is open source, and that is the support model around this. But it sounds like you're very much encouraging people to go use this in production workflows, right? You're not saying do a proof of concept and try whatever. You're saying go use this. We think it's good enough. We think it meets the need. Go use it. Is that right?
Yeah,
That's
there
exactly right.
are a number of customers using it today, and we're getting feedback from them in real time, especially Will. He's getting lots of feedback.
And we've got hundreds of installs. I mean, maybe we're like probably thousands at this point, right? We were not very good at keeping metrics in the very beginning, so some of that data is lost to the sands of time. But outside of that, we've got we're keeping track, and we can keeping some metrics on how many installs are happening. So there's a wide array of customers using this across the globe, across industry, and we think that this is ready for them to use. And yes, support is on GitHub, but Microsoft support also has a hotline to us as well, right? So if they are using it in production, they have some training on it, but then they have a direct line to us, so that way we can help escalate any issues. It's just the only thing we have is commercially reasonable support, right? We have other day jobs, like Travis and Mark have real day jobs. I just kind of am around. So that's what we get to do and support it as best we can with respect to those timelines. But we want people to be adopting this, and we want them to be doing this in production, and we will do as much as we can to enable that.
Just thank you. I've been listening and trying to understand it and trying to take it in. But as I understand, this is a connector that you built, and you can open source all the rest of it. Why would Microsoft not build this as a first-party part of the solution?
I think they're planning on building this out, and this feeds into that, but it's a timing and prioritization issue.
Okay.
I think you need to ask the Purview team, but I think they've just got so many things on their plate that this was something that took a back burner and got maybe more customer requests than were initially expected, and so we stepped in. This is definitely an interim. Long term, this should be an interim solution, but one that, like I said before, is actually in line with their roadmap. So you should be able to adopt this and not have to worry about going down a dead end road, for instance.
Yeah, it's just more about, I guess, for enterprise customers to have that confidence that it's going to have the support and so on, where they might be a bit reluctant to just pick something off GitHub.
And
absolutely.
I would add that Spark, Apache Spark, which Databricks is using in as the baseline and is improved upon, it is not easy to get information out of it, right? Even the things that Open Lineage is using and what potentially Databricks is using as part of their Unity catalog is not really, it's their developer APIs, right? They're not really meant for the public endpoints to be used. So there is that difficulty, and a matter of you need some truly deep experts. Granted, Microsoft has a lot of Spark expertise, right? We have our own Spark engine. We've had our own Spark engine for a while now. We partnered with Hortonworks a long time ago, and we've obviously been very close partners with Databricks too. But even at that point, right, it's a lot to be able to extract out, and we're very fortunate again that Open Lineage already had these great Spark developers to help accelerate us. And now a little behind the scenes information is that there's other teams at Microsoft that are exploring this for other installations of Spark, right? Like being able to do this on Synapse Spark, being able to do this on
yeah.
like Kubernetes Sparks, right? Like there's Open Lineage, because it works on Spark, it works anywhere. It's just a matter of translating the model back to Purview. And once you've done that, it's pretty easy, right? But again, it's just that hard work of like, how do you interpret the specification from Open Lineage, and then how do you morph it into an Apache Atlas entity, and what model are you using, like what attributes you want to capture. But ultimately, any version of Spark can be using this, and it's important that we support Open Lineage because they're so far ahead, right? At least in my opinion, as an Open Lineage contributor, I would want us to support them a lot because they're doing such cool work, and it's again global, not just Microsoft, not just one company. Many teams are contributing to that.
Sorry, Russell. I was going to say this hits on, and we've talked about this theme on the show a bunch over the years. This is sort of the new Microsoft versus the old Microsoft, right? We're going to contribute. We're going to help the overall ecosystem. Yes, does it help us and help our customers? Sure, but it also helps the rest of the ecosystem as well.
Exactly.
So very much our new model. This has been great. Mark, Travis, Will, appreciate y'all coming on. Any last questions or any last comments or things you want to raise for our audience?
The only thing I'll add is that the accelerator continues to grow and develop, right? We're going to continue adding more data sources. We have our eyes on hopefully being integrated fully into the product, but that won't affect people who are using the connector, right? It should be a pretty seamless transition once it eventually makes it into the product. But expect more data sources, expect more improvements along the line, and we would love to have contributors, right? Don't be afraid to put in things. You'll get feedback from us, and we'd love to incorporate. If you incorporate that feedback and then submit it, we'd love to include it, right? Because we want our community to work. So that's been my main takeaway. And again, thanks to the Azure Podcast team for having us.
I just second everything Will said. Thank you guys very much for the opportunity.
I would say everybody should check out Bicep.
Awesome.
Travis is gonna, on Bicep, I think. Yeah, I'd say Travis will come back in a few months and do a show on Bicep for us.
And just very briefly before we wrap up, I know you're keen to get on, Evan, but just Will, when you introduced yourself, you said you're a global black belt. I'm just wondering if that's something that people are going to understand what a global black belt does. So just very quickly.
So super brief. I help our customers, some of our largest customers in the world, focus on how do we accelerate their workload, moving from I'm just starting out on Synapse, Databricks, Data Factory, Azure Machine Learning, ML Flow. How do we accelerate them so that they can move from I think I want to do this to I'm ready to do this? And so I spend a lot of time working with customers, writing code, helping them deliver on these ideas, and then getting them ready to the point where a partner, an integrator can actually take it forward with them and be confident that it's ready to go. That's mostly my role, and it's been a big benefit of being able to work on this team because I've been able to do some cool stuff with these guys and take it to like a real production solution, which not everyone at Microsoft gets the opportunity to do so.
Cool, thank you. And I guess that role deserves a cool title to go with it as well. So thank you.
Right, that's right. Thanks, Russell.
Thanks again. Thanks y'all for coming on. This has been great. I did want to share with our audience, and I guess there's good news, bad news here. And she doesn't know we were going to mention this, but Cynthia has decided to leave Microsoft. She is going to scarily go back to be a student to work on her MBA and potentially go on to bigger and better things. But so we're definitely going to miss her in the within our internal community. But she's going to stick around. She is going to continue to be a host on the show. So Cynthia, congratulations on the next step. We are going to come visit you. We won't get into it for the public audience, but where you're going to school is a cool place to go visit. So we may all just show up one day and just do a show from your place. She's looking very scared. Oh, no.
No. I'm very excited.
Okay, awesome. Great. Everybody, thanks for the time. Appreciate y'all coming on.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Thanks, guys.